Hey everybody, this is the Mad Cap. Welcome to a special Mad Cap video. Um, Hope you guys like the new format. I plan to maintain this format for any videos I plan to do covering anything I spot going on in the entertainment industry across news articles. But whatever. Hope you guys enjoy. So, this has been brought up again. So, Paul Feig has come out in a recent interview talking about Ghostbusters 2016 again, to no surprise, because he can't seem to let it go. So, recently there was an article that was posted by Variety, May 26, 2020, at 6:11 p.m. Pacific time. This was published by J. Kim Murphy. Now, the headline goes Ghostbusters, all female reboot, a victim of 2016's anti Hillary movement, says director Paul Feig. Interesting. So yeah, to even just go back as far as 2014, I believe. Yeah. Apparently, there was going to be a second Ghostbusters sequel titled Ghostbusters 3. It was going to be greenlit and produced by the core people who were going to be brought back. That is Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, and I think Rick Moranis too, and Annie Potts. But yeah, so this was long in development hell for at least 2 decades since Ghostbusters 2. And they were going to move forward with the idea, but sadly, the passing of Harold Ramis just kind of like shook everybody involved in Ghostbusters, and especially the fan base. So there were some executive choices being made within Sony, especially from Amy Pascal, who was going to push along for an all-female reboot of Ghostbusters with an all-female cast. And this was evident in the 2014 Sony leaks that came out surrounding Sony's comedy film that was released in Christmas called The Interview with Seth Rogen and James Franco. And apparently that had some controversy with North Korea, that Sony had like the emails leaked out to the public. Now, within those leaks were pretty much just passing of ideas. There was an idea for pretty much like a cross-universal Spider-Man film that was rumored to be within the leaks with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but that led to Into the Spider-Verse. I could be wrong. I'm not being totally by fact here. But I am aware that within those leaks, there were these passing of ideas between Amy Pascal, Tom Rothman, and even Paul Feig discussing the Ghostbusters reboot that was going to come out in 2016. And they wanted to make it all about pretty much just female representation, female empowerment, and they pushed aside Bill Murray, the original cast and producers, especially oh fuck, I forgot his name, Ivan Reitman. They pushed aside Ivan Reitman into a corner to have Paul Feig have complete say and control with Ghostbusters 2016. And so, because of that, they hired Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon to helm the four main leads. And so this film was being produced for like a budget. I believe it didn't climb up to it yet, but it was at like $100 million or $90 million under Paul Feig's budget. But then, Lord and behold, the budget climbed up to $130 million due to pretty much some statements that Dan Aykroyd made after Ghostbusters 2016 was released and failed at the box office. That he offered some suggestions to help Paul Feig save money, but Paul Feig refused, and therefore the budget climbed. So, yeah, coming off of Bridesmaids and Spy, I don't really like Bridesmaids in retrospect, and I did enjoy Spy. So those were hits. So that gave Paul Feig the chair for Ghostbusters. So coming off of this, he was ready to release this for summer 2016. The first teaser trailer was released sometime around December, and what a surprise! It was heavily panned by fans, audiences, and even viewers, especially just based off the YouTube publish of the trailer. Um, and and after that first teaser, they made it all about the sexism against the people who didn't like the teaser. They cried sexism, racism, and calling viewers white Trump supporters, considering that this was obviously being released in the height of the election year. Um, and and yeah, they made it all about those things. They made it all about the politics, the identity politics, and even James Rolfe came out and said he didn't want to see the movie, not because of anything related that he would imply, because he never said anything remotely negative towards the representation of the film, but he just strictly said he just didn't want to see the movie, mostly because the trailers looked like shit, and the passing of Harold Ramis did hit James Rolfe, as with everybody. And then he got attacked, and by SJWs and people who cried out sexism and racism all attacked James Rolfe, especially people coming out of Paul Feig's network. Pan Oswalt did call out James Rolfe. Judd Apatow called out the fans, and I think Sarah Silverman probably. But anyway, she made a film where she kissed an underage child the year after, so who gives a fuck? So, Ghostbusters 2016 met with another trailer. Of course, it was panned as well, as promotion just got worse for the film, so were the expectations of it performing well in the box office. And what do you know? The film made about $220 million against a $130 million budget, and considering how much advertisement they put in for those awful trailers, the product placements, the awful Fallout Boy cover, it was a huge failure, and it lost Sony tons of money. I would say probably. Well, this article gave us a different figure, but I would just say that it lost them much more than this. It would had to lose Sony at least $80 million in total profits. So, to begin, Ghostbusters all-female reboot, a victim of 2016's anti-Hillary movement, says director Paul Feig. Let's begin. Paul Feig has reflected on the vitriolic response to his women-led Ghostbusters reboot, claiming it was similar to criticism faced by Hillary Clinton during her 2016 campaign for president. Okay, so based on the Sony email leaks, that was 2 years before the fact. Amy Pascal made it all about the identity politics. She made it all about the sexism and racism that would sprung from this film. She made it all about insulting the fans and not giving the fans that they wanted. And now it's not a humiliation ritual as The Last Jedi, where it just bastardizes its main character, who has remained like the heart of Star Wars. But having the other lead actors that were in Ghostbusters as pretty much like separate cameos was already the more insulting. So they made it all about insulting the fans and insulting people who wouldn't like the movie and their shitty trailers. They made it all about that. So of course they would make it all about the Hillary Clinton campaign, because this was released in the height of the election campaign just to boost morale for Hillary Clinton by having a female Ghostbusters movie to prompt her image and the image of liberal Hollywood and shit. And therefore, because of that, like, the liberal side just kind of flipped and fell on its face, and therefore Trump became president. In a discussion with Julia Cunningham on the Just Cagle show on Sirius XM, Feig discussed the vocal negativity that arose following the casting of Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones as the leads of the film. Paul Feig said, some really brilliant author or researcher or sociologist needs to write a book about 2016 and how intertwined our film was with Hillary Clinton and the anti-Hillary movement. I don't think you have to make a book. You could probably just make a freaking article. Even I could make an article, not just on the 2016 Hillary bullshit, but just everything that's happened post 2016. I can make an article just stating just how politically and culturally divided we have become as a society when we view art and entertainment. Where, since Trump took office, Hollywood's been making all about just pandering in gay representation, female representation, and identity politics, adding people of color. I'm just using that in quotes. Adding more diversity just so they can make it all about, pretty much just bashing Donald Trump, which I don't like Donald Trump. I don't care about what people have to say because it's obvious. They made it completely just one-sided. There can't be a gray area because, what I mean by gray area is that, you even had controversial figures being made into films where I think you had like multiple Richard Nixon movies. There was one just called Nixon. I think came out in 2008. That whether you like those films or not, and whether you think they glorified them or put these people in a negative light, then they still made films about them. So you can't really make a Trump movie in a sort of attitude that feels almost like in between. It has to be just one where it's all about just bashing Trump and how much of a bastard he is and, his policies and stuff like that. So there can't be that, but you can have all those things with other presidents who did not appeal well to the American people. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see, I could just come up with an article stating how, it's effective modern filmmaking, postmodern filmmaking with Star Wars, Terminator, I think Marvel is kind of leaning a bit. Even some failures like the Charlie's Angels reboot and yeah, just stuff like that. Like we live in a politically divided culture right now where it's all about it's all about the identity politics, but Hollywood wants to attack the fans because they don't want to accept the fact that women have to be in power, or that there's a black lead film, even though we had black lead films. Fucking Night of the Living Dead was a black led film, and that was more socially prevalent than whatever has came out in recent years. So yeah, Feig went on to point towards President Trump's own negative comments regarding the film as indicative of a larger ideological tie between the criticism both face. And then Paul Feig went on Twitter saying, if you don't watch this, go fuck yourself. I'm just putting it out there. It's crazy how people got nuts about women trying to be in power or trying to be in positions that they weren't normally in, Paul Feig said. It was an ugly, ugly year. Prior to that, we had The Force Awakens, Ex Machina, Mad Max Fury Road, Gone Girl, Kill Bill. Yeah, I mean, what the fuck does that mean? That we were all afraid of women in power? It's not that we were afraid of women in power. It's just we like characters. We end up liking characters that just happen to be women, and therefore, we still enjoyed those films I just mentioned as entertainment, as entertaining films. Whether you hold those films in high regard, they were entertaining films for the most part. They were crowd pleasers. So it's not like this. It's not like this new thing where they're starting to have women being in lead roles. It's not that very new compared to what was going on in the 60s. The rebooted Ghostbusters faced negative online reactions up to its release. It grossed $229.1 million at the global box office and Sony Pictures. The film's distributor, lost upward of 50 million. Ghostbusters Afterlife, a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 2 with no narrative ties to the 2016 reboot, is set to release on March 5th, 2021. Now, yeah, this was supposed to come out this year, but unfortunately, Corona canceled everything. So they have to push it for another year. The film stars Paul Rudd and the kid from Stranger Things. And, yeah, the film stars Paul Rudd. I'm not sure if this goes any further. Holy shit, that's it. The article ends with a comma point. Okay. I'll just leave that for you. But yeah, I don't have any problems with them rebooting Ghostbusters again. Though I do feel from the trailer of Afterlife, it does come off a bit Stranger Things-esque. And I think I'm just following up Stranger Things for a bit. I don't really have much excitement or any interest in Afterlife, really. I mean, as long as it's a entertaining movie and not an insult piece like the 2016 one, then that's fine. I'm good for that. But yeah, I'm not really in the mood or in any enthusiastic light to see Afterlife if it hits theaters. But I'm sure people will. I'm sure people will enjoy that more than the last one. But yeah, that's pretty much the article. So it begins with, again, obvious statements from Paul Feig out of embarrassment to a fucking comma point. But yeah, I mean, this is odd because recently we had an article came out that addressed Ghostbusters 2016. And that was when the Sonic film hit theaters before the whole coronavirus thing blew everything to shit. Yeah, it was an article stating that if fans are too entitled to have changes made for their favor. And yeah, it was just regarding Sonic, how horribly designed he was initially, that they changed him to make him look closer to the video games, as he should. And therefore, the trailers were a lot better, and the marketing was a lot better, and therefore, the film performed better than what they were expecting with that initial Sonic design. So yeah, they just made a stab at people just with Ghostbusters 2016 somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, they made it all about just, they wanted to include Last Jedi as well because that's still being talked about. With Kelly Marie Tran being bullied on Instagram with no sufficient evidence. She just dropped out because she couldn't handle criticism. Fans not liking Rian Johnson's piece of art. And so they address right here. Instead, The Last Jedi has become one of the many flashpoints in recent years, with 2016 female-led Ghostbusters being another in which the TV and film industries push for diversity and inclusion has been met with vicious campaigns of racism and misogyny. Racism and misogyny in fandom isn't a new phenomenon. It's being felt more acutely in recent decades because the ease. And this is a pretty rational statement from Suzanne Scott. The article was published by Stephen Kelly. This is an interesting response by Susan Scott. Racism and misogyny in fandom isn't a new phenomenon. It's just being felt more acutely in recent decades and part of the ease with which these attacks can be orchestrated on social media platforms. Fandom is not another one from Henry Jenkins. Fandom is not necessarily extreme. The current moment is extreme. The only fandom is as much part of the solution as it is part of the problem. So yeah, just an off tangent there, but yeah, recently they just mentioned Ghostbusters 2016 because they just couldn't let the fuck go, much like Paul Feig. So it seems like just on this article alone by Variety, it's like Paul Feig is still shook up with embarrassment of how much he failed Ghostbusters, even though, with his actions, his responses to the fans, and taking no notes from any of the veteran actors or filmmakers who had made Ghostbusters what it is. He just went on and did his own thing. The film became like a series of ad-lib improvisational comedy sketches with hardly any script, and the script itself essentially just a rip-off of the first movie. trying to set up its own thing, but still trying to owe back to the old thing. But yeah, it's just a victim. This article is just a whole. It's just another victim piece of Paul Feig's failure with Ghostbusters 2016, and how much he just can't really like move on and accept the fact that the film was a failure. And I do like his defeatist statement during the Ghostbusters convention, giving it to Jason Reitman, because you could tell in that panel how much in just defeat he was, just giving Ghostbusters to Jason Reitman.